Welcome to listening to stories on Kevin TV Audiobook Channel, Chapter 2329, The Giant Race Invades. There's no point overthinking about something I have no clue about. I should just treat it as a happy miracle that neither of them had their longevity sacrificed. Tian Yang thought to himself and immediately stopped pondering about it. So what's our plan now? Ren Xia asked sometime later. Tian Yang explained to her that he was already trying to advance to the next stage of God realm. I met Kulas Zarin when I visited the Giant's continent. Not directly, but I immediately knew that I lacked the power to stop him at my current level. If I want to have any hope of stopping him, I need to reach the next level before him. The next stage, huh? That'll probably take you another 100,000 years, if not 2 or 3, Ren Xia remarked. What do you plan on doing then? Tian Yang asked. Well, I can follow your lead and immediately continue my cultivation, but I need to stretch my body for a little first. Ren Xia responded before she suddenly grabbed his robes and started dragging him away. You can continue your cultivation after you spend a few years with me. Tian Yang was speechless. Ren Xia looked at Sun Rusi and added, You had plenty of alone time with him for the last 20,000 years. So you won't mind if I hog him for a few years, right? Sun Rusi could only silently shake her head with a smile on her face. I'll work on my cultivation techniques and see if I can improve Heaven's indomitable soul, she said a moment later. Thus, Ren Xia dragged Tian Yang into her bedroom, where they would cultivate with each other countless times for the next decade. Once Ren Xia had her full and was satisfied, she finally released Tian Yang. However, right as Tian Yang prepared to enter another seclusion, Jing Ruye emerged from her seclusion with a defeated look on her face. I don't think I have what it takes to enter the God realm, she released a defeated sigh. Hell, I'd only managed to get to true immortal because of Sister Rushi. If it hadn't been for her assistance and the countless treasures she gave me, I doubt I would have ever entered the immortal realm. It's too early to give up. Most cultivators don't successfully break through on their first seclusion. Sun Rushi tried to encourage her. That may be true for the other realms, but the God realm is a real bottleneck for the untalented. It draws a line between the mediocre and those truly destined for cultivation. Forget entering the God realm. After all this time, I still can't sense celestial chi. Even if you give up on yourself, I won't give up on you. So I will personally guide you, said Sun Rushi. You really don't need to. I have plenty of time anyway. Thank you, Sister Rushi. Thus, Sun Rushi added guiding Jing Ruye into her routine, and Tian Yang entered seclusion again. A few weeks later, Ren Xia decided to leave the private world to wander the outside for a breath of fresh air. Yet days after she left, Ren Xia immediately returned to the world. It's finally happened. The giant race has left their continent and begun their invasion. Ren Xia interrupted Sun Rusi and Jing Ruye's lecture, dumbfounding them with this news. When did this happen? What is my family's response? Sun Rusi immediately inquired about the 3 pillars of Heaven's reaction. It started literally yesterday. The 3 pillars of Heaven response is what you're likely thinking right now. They, alongside their alliance, are going to fight. It's war, a real large-scale war between powerful cultivators. This is unprecedented. Heavens. This will wreak catastrophic havoc across the world. Countless innocent lives will be lost. Jing Ruye covered her mouth, stunned by the thought of the chaos the war would bring. Any battle between 2 immortals was devastating enough. She couldn't fathom hundreds, perhaps thousands of them clashing simultaneously across the land. Sun Rusi was speechless, but the disgust on her face was as clear as day. Why do things like this have to happen when Tian Yang isn't available? He's definitely cursed. Ren Xia sighed. Sun Rusi then said, Fortunately, it hasn't been long since he entered seclusion, so it'll likely be fine even if we disturb him. In fact, the faster we do it, the better. Ren Xia shook her head and said, Even if he comes out of seclusion right now, there's nothing he can really do, unless he's powerful enough to stop their leader, Kulas. Sun Rusi opened her mouth only to close it without uttering a word. Let's just watch and let it play out for now. Renshaw spoke a moment later. You're right, there's no need to act recklessly when we have little to no option at this moment. Thus, Renshaw and Sun Rusi decided to let the war play out and watch from the shadows. Ri and Indli. They began by sending only a few giants to wreak havoc, seemingly testing the waters. Even so, the three pillars of heaven and their allies struggled immensely, as it took dozens of experts at the immortal realm to handle a single giant at the same level. Of course, it didn't take long for the humans to realize just how powerful the giant race had become. Every single giant they fought were literally unstoppable, as they all resembled a madman who lost all reason and only acted upon their primal instinct. What the hell is wrong with these giants? They don't react even after getting stabbed or losing their limbs. Even beasts run away or react to pain. It's like we're fighting undead beings. The giants were so relentless that the only way to truly stop them was to destroy their heart or smash their brains. Otherwise, they would continue to struggle, even if they lost all of their limbs. And this left the three pillars of heaven, the human race, absolutely terrified. Chapter 233, The Giant Emperor Enters the Battlefield. Fucking hell, this monster refuses to give up, even when half of his body is missing. Don't stop attacking, stop wasting energy on his limbs, and aim only for his heart and head. That's the only way to stop these monsters. The divine heavens shook throughout the day in multiple regions as the giant race invaded, and the human race attempted to stop them. The three pillars of heaven had been confident they could crush the giant race at any time, but the war quickly shattered that certainty and filled them with unprecedented fear. Realizing they were struggling even while the giants merely tested them with small incursions, they began desperately recruiting more allies. Those who had doubted the three pillars of heaven's real motive were forced to accept reality after the invasion really happened and agreed to join the alliance. Thus, the creation of the world's largest alliance was formed with tens of thousands of large families and sects joining together to fight against the giant race. Time passed with the giant race striking only every few years. The humans had time to regroup and breathe, but each invasion saw the giants return stronger than before. After 1,000 years had passed, the giant race started invading even more frequently, attacking once a year and in larger numbers. The three pillars of heaven have tried to negotiate with the giant race several times during this period, but all of the messengers they sent to the giant continent never returned. 10,000 years later, the giant race stopped holding back and began invading the rest of the world in mass, instantly overwhelming the humans with their numbers. With tens of thousands of giants let loose and rampaging around the world, the entire divine heavens was quickly engulfed in flames. Thousands, tens of thousands of people died daily during the invasion, and the number of casualties only increased as the war dragged on. In the midst of the war, the humans realized that the giants were moving in a pattern, and that they only visited new places, meaning that once they explored a certain area, they would not return, almost as if they were searching for something. Upon realizing this, those who could not fight took shelter in old battlefields. Although most of these places were destroyed beyond recognition, it was at least safe. These giants are searching for something, and if we find it first, it could turn the tide of the war. The three pillars of heaven redirected part of their effort to the search, but with no clue what they sought, they were groping in the dark. Yet that didn't deter them from trying. After another 20,000 years, a cultivator from the three pillars of heaven finally reached the God realm. The world celebrated and recorded the unprecedented event, unaware that three other cultivators had attained the God realm tens of thousands of years earlier. With the emergence of this God realm cultivator, the humans instantly turned the tide of the war, as the cultivator could single-handedly slaughter the giants, who were all still within the immortal realm. However, since there was only one God realm cultivator, there was only so much he could do against a massive army of giants that were spread throughout the divine heavens, not to mention that more giants would constantly invade the land. But as time passed and more cultivators reached the God realm, the humans started eliminating the giants faster than they could be replaced. Nearly 100,000 years had passed since the giant race began their invasion. And just as humanity was regaining confidence, a sudden shift occurred, and for the first time the giant emperor left the giant continent while leading an army. The giant emperor is finally taking action for the first time since the beginning of the war. What are their numbers? T-10,000. This is their biggest invasion yet. The emperor himself has probably led the remaining forces for one final push. So we've finally reached the end, huh? Once we deal with the giant emperor and the rest of his forces, we can finally put an end to this war. The three pillars of heaven in countless backgrounds quickly came together, forming their most powerful and largest army yet to confront the giant emperor. Shortly before the two sides clashed, a certain individual emerged from his seclusion. Tianyang, you're finally out. When Tianyang emerged from his seclusion, the first person to greet him after 100,000 years was Jing Ruye. Seeing the urgent expression on her face, Tianyang immediately inquired about the situation. What happened? Jing Ruye wasted no time explaining everything to him. The situation is worse than I thought, Tianyang muttered, shaking his head at the news. He had expected the giant race to search their lands for the absolute power eventually, but he'd focused on cultivation, believing Sun Rushi or Ren Xia would intervene if things ever grew dire. Where's Sun Rushi and Ren Xia? He asked her a moment later. They wanted to wait for you to finish your seclusion before acting, but they couldn't sit still after hearing that the giant emperor had appeared and left a month ago to gather information on him. I would have gone with them, but they insisted that I stay here just in case you returned. Tianyang rubbed his eyes and sighed. These two idiots. Why didn't they just come and get me when the situation is this dire? Actually, they tried several times at that. However, there was an invisible force around your immortal cave that prevented them from approaching you, Jing Ruye explained. What? Tianyang was surprised to hear this, as he had no idea what could have caused such a phenomenon. Unfortunately, he didn't have the time to ponder about it. Where is Kulas now? Tianyang asked. After Jing Ruye gave the location, he left his personal world and headed there at once, with Jing Ruye following him since she no longer had a reason to stay behind. Chapter 2331. Joining the fight against the giant emperor. Somewhere in divine heaven, two massive armies faced off, one enormous in number, the other immense in size. Giant emperor, your atrocities against us humans will end here, the person leading the human army shouted at the giant emperor who was leading an army of 10,000 giants. You'll stop me? With that pathetic army of yours? Kulas laughed out loud, his voice full of disdain. Suddenly, 4 figures radiating overwhelming auras stepped forward to face Kulas, each a god realm cultivator. There are 4 of us in the god realm on our side. Well, you're the only one on your side. The outcome of this war is already decided, one of them said. Kulas smiled calmly. 4 against 1? If you'd had a few more, you might have stood a chance. Kulas suddenly erupted with his hidden aura, flooding the area with a suffocating presence that instantly overwhelmed the 4 god realm cultivators. He's already achieved the 2nd level of god realm? How is that possible? When the humans realized Kulas' true cultivation, their confidence shattered and dread rippled through the ranks before the battle even began. Deep frowns and grimaces contorted the 4 god realm cultivators' faces, as if they'd just swallowed a live fly. Kulas laughed loudly, his voice shook the air, splintering the nearby mountains already weakened by his presence into crumbling shards. Meanwhile, 2 figures with concealed presences watched the situation unfold from afar. That son of a bitch has already broken into the 2nd level. Even if Tianyang emerges from seclusion now, he'll still be a step behind, Ren Xia said, clenching her fists in frustration as Kulas' presence washed over her. Even if we join the battle to help, I don't think we can beat him, Sun Rushi said, frowning as she searched for a solution. Our only hope is that Tianyang reaches the 2nd level before the battle ends. At the same time, the final battle between humanity and the giant race erupted. While the four-god realm cultivators concentrated on Kulas, the rest of the forces engaged the giant army, and in the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of miles of land were laid waste. The moment the battle erupted, dozens of heaven-splitting martial techniques converged on Kulas, who towered above the tallest nearby mountain. His skin, now a deep crimson, repelled the assaults effortlessly, without so much as a scratch. It'd take almost no effort to kill you, but that'd be too boring. So let me enjoy this for a little bit. Kulas laughed out loud as he treated the fight like it's nothing more than a casual game. Meanwhile, the four-god realm cultivators fought with everything on the line. In their eyes, if they lost to Kulas, humanity would be doomed. Time passed quickly, and in just 3 short days the humans had defeated over half of the giant army. Though they paid dearly, suffering hundreds of thousands of casualties, meanwhile, Kulas paid no mind to his dwindling forces, focusing instead on slowly wearing down the four-god realm cultivators, humiliating them with overwhelming prowess. I doubt the battle will last until the end of the week at this rate. Sun Rushi shook her head as she watched members from her own family being killed in action. After a moment of silence, she continued. At this rate, the battle will end before Tianyang even shows up. Sun Rushi turned to look at Ren Sha and continued. I want you to return home and see if you can wake up Tianyang. What are you going to do? Ren Sha asked, even though she already had an idea. I'm going to join the battle, she calmly responded. Ren Sha didn't try to argue and nodded. I will wake him from his seclusion, even if I have blow up his immortal cave. After saying such words, Ren Sha turned around and flew away. However, before she could really go anywhere, a massive crimson barrier suddenly materialized around the battlefield, preventing her from leaving. What the hell? Where do you think you're going? A loud voice resounded, causing Ren Jia to turn toward the sound, where Kulas was staring at her with a cold grin on his face. Kulas, you bastard, Ren Jia growled with a frown on her face. Did you really think I wouldn't notice you watching from there? I was merely pretending that I didn't notice, he laughed. Where's Tianyang? Kulas then asked. Why do you care? I have been purposefully delaying the war just to see what he'd do, but turns out I had wasted my time. If you want to see him that badly, let me go. I was about to fetch him before you intervened, Ren Sha said silently, hoping that Kulas would agree. Kulas pondered for a moment before responding. No. It will be more entertaining to meet him after I kill everyone here. However, I will keep you alive so I could torture you right in front of him. Is that so? Ren Xia mumbled. I have always wanted to punch your annoying face, and this is the perfect opportunity. Realizing that she had no other option, Ren Xia withdrew her weapon and flew at Kulas. Seeing this, Sun Rushi also joined the battle. The members of the 3 Pillars of Heaven were shocked to see Sun Rushi. Sun Rushi, where the hell have you been all these years? One of the 4-god realm cultivators exclaimed with disbelief after seeing her. Save the talk for later, Sun Rushi shouted as she retrieved a treasure that took the shape of a golden wheel. Thus, Ren Xia and Sun Rushi joined the battle against Kulas. Ha ha ha, things are finally getting entertaining. Kulas smiled as he unleashed even more aura. Just how much more power is this monster hiding? I can't breathe. Help, M. Kulas' pressure was so overwhelming that every cultivator below the immortal realm had their hearts burst from the strain, instantly annihilating half of the army.